easily amount to any brand image being tarnished. German football and Adidas are scrambling to do some damage control and evade just that.
From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America, your global pit stop for the latest news and headlines from the United States and around the world. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. We'll get you a roundup of all the day's top stories, but first, let's take a look at the headlines. Ukrainian drones attack Russia's third largest oil refinery 800 miles from the front lines. The drones hit a core unit which processes more than 150,000 barrels of crude oil per day. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in France, where he will hold talks with French President Emmanuel Macron on Ukraine and Gaza. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says that his country will recognize Palestinian statehood by July. The announcement was made during Sanchez's ongoing Middle East visit. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi takes the oath for his third term. Sisi swept to victory last December with nearly 90% of the vote. And Finland police say one child died and two others were seriously wounded after a 12-year-old shooter opened fire at a school north of the capital, Helsinki. The suspect has been arrested. We begin in the Middle East, where a suspected Israeli airstrike destroyed the consular section of the Iranian embassy in Syria's capital, Damascus. At least 11 people were killed as tensions rise to alarming levels. Iran has accused Israel of carrying out the attack, but Israel has refused to comment on the allegations. Now, the Iranian government claims that 7 of its military advisors, including 3 senior commanders, were in fact killed. Tehran says that the strike killed the regional commander of the Quds Force from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, marking the first high-profile targeting of an Iranian military leader since 2020, when U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the assassination of Iranian General Qassem Soleimani. Iran's foreign minister has called the alleged Israeli strike a violation of all international obligations. He also said, quote, Netanyahu has completely lost his mental balance due to the consecutive failures in Gaza, end quote. Meanwhile, Iranian officials have threatened Israel with revenge of a similar magnitude.
Definitely the Zionist regime knows better than anyone that such crimes and violating international law will have its response in an appropriate time.
Now, Israel says it would fully support Iran if, in fact, they choose to retaliate.
We strongly condemn this criminal act carried out by the Zionist army. So again, we emphasize our position beside our brothers in the Iranian embassy and the Islamic Republic of Iran. And we assure that Syria and the Islamic Republic don't forget their enemies.
Now, following the attack, protests erupted in Tehran as thousands of Iranians took to the streets, urging the Iranian government to punish Israel with retaliatory strikes.
The embassy is considered part of a country's territory. There definitely should be a firm response to this action, and a fitting revenge must be taken.
We must have a serious answer to this action, like the answer that we gave during the assassination of General Soleimani. And this answer must reach the whole world.
Meanwhile, Iran-backed Hezbollah says it will avenge the death of the Iranian generals. The slain regional commander of the Quds Force had worked closely with Hezbollah in Syria and in Lebanon. The U.S. says it is also looking into Iran's allegations against Israel. Now, if Israel is indeed responsible for bombing Iran's embassy in Syria, it would be the biggest escalation in the region in recent years. And staying with the Middle East, an Israeli airstrike struck an aid camp in Central Gaza. At least 7 volunteers, including foreign workers with the World Central Kitchen, were killed. The Palestinian Health Ministry says citizens from Australia, Poland, and the United Kingdom were killed in the airstrike. The Israeli military has launched an investigation and has called it a tragic incident. Meanwhile, Australia has demanded accountability from Israel.
They have already contacted the Israeli government directly. We are contacting the Israeli ambassador to ask for accountability here. The truth is that this is beyond any reasonable circumstances. Someone going about providing aid and humanitarian assistance should lose their life. And there were 4 aid workers as well as Palestinian driver in this vehicle. This is a human tragedy that should never have occurred, that is completely unacceptable.
And the Australian Prime Minister has also called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
Australia has had a very clear position of supporting a sustainable ceasefire, of calling for it for some period of time, of calling for humanitarian aid to go to the people of Gaza who are suffering from this deprivation, to make sure that hostages are released as well.
Israel's airstrike comes just a day after top American and Israeli officials spoke virtually about the ongoing war in Gaza. U.S. officials say that the talks lasted more than 2 hours and focused on Israel's military ambitions in the southern city of Rafah. Now, while both sides said the talks were in fact productive, the Biden administration says Israel is yet to share its Rafah operation blueprint with them. Currently, hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians are taking refuge in Rafah. But despite the not-so-warm ties between Biden and Netanyahu, the U.S. continues to support its long-term ally in the region with weapons. Washington is likely to approve the sale of 50 F-15 fighter jets to Israel in a deal worth $18 billion. And just days ago, the U.S. agreed to send bombs and F-35 stealth fighter jets to Israel as well. Prime Minister Netanyahu has made his intentions clear, refusing to slow down the war against Hamas despite growing international pressure as the humanitarian crisis worsens in Gaza. And now shifting focus to the mysterious illness that has affected several U.S. diplomats, CIA, and FBI staff across the world since 2016. It's called Havana Syndrome. The first case was reported in the Cuban capital, and now it's been linked to Russia. The investigation was carried out by a Russia-focused media group based in Riga in collaboration with German and an American media group. The report states that members of the Russian military intelligence unit could have targeted U.S. officials by using directed energy weapons or microwaves fired from hidden devices. It says that the common link between the victims was a Russia nexus. The Russian intelligence unit, called 29155, has been operational for more than a decade and has previously been accused of carrying out foreign assassinations, subversion, and sabotage. It was also linked to the 2018 attempted poisoning of Sergei Skripal, a former Russian spy. But the Kremlin has dismissed the report and called the accusations baseless and unfounded. The Havana Syndrome involves symptoms such as hearing certain sounds without any outside noise, vertigo, nausea, headaches, memory loss, and disorientation. In 2016, the U.S. reopened its embassy in Cuba after decades of hostile relations. Some U.S. intelligence officials and embassy staff reported falling ill and hearing piercing sounds at night, followed by headaches, disorientation, and insomnia. The initial suspicion was that the syndrome was a sonic attack by Cuba. So in 2017, the U.S. withdrew non-essential employees from its recently opened embassy in Havana and expelled Cuban diplomats from the United States. However, further study by U.S. scientists then suggested they may have been subjected to high-powered microwaves that interfered with the nervous system. Now, this sparked speculation of an attack by a foreign entity using an identified sonar weapon. The use of microwaves as counterintelligence tactics has been prevalent since the Cold War. And there were reports of U.S. embassy officials in Moscow experiencing mental health issues due to suspected use of microwaves as early as the 1970s. Now, the latest report states that the first incident was probably in Germany, not in Havana. Since then, officials posted in various countries have reported symptoms of the syndrome. In 2018, similar accusations were made by U.S. diplomats in China's Guangzhou. And in 2019 and 2020, there were incidents from within the United States as well, specifically right here in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. Over 1,000 reports of the mysterious illness have surfaced so far. And on Monday, the Pentagon said that a senior Defense Department official who attended last year's NATO summit in Lithuania had experienced symptoms similar to the Havana Syndrome. But the U.S. State Department has maintained that it is unlikely that a foreign adversary was responsible for causing the mysterious illness. The Cuban government has dismissed the report, saying it does not provide any new evidence. The Cuban Foreign Ministry said the allegations present Havana as a place that allows foreign powers to carry out acts against the United States.
And Cuba is interested because it tries to present Cuba once again as a threat to U.S. national security. Even if Cuba is not suggested as the alleged main perpetrator, the Cuban government is presented as the place that lends itself to foreign powers and countries to carry out acts against the United States.
I think that this alleged journalistic investigation does not provide serious elements, especially that there is a new illness caused by a weapon with a mysterious energy, and also that the diplomats who were in Cuba were also attacked.
Now, the White House has said that it will continue to investigate the source of the Havana Syndrome, but for now, the Biden administration seems to be unwilling to engage in a new diplomatic confrontation with Russia. And now to Wall Street. Just a week after it began trading publicly, shares of Donald Trump's social media company fell by 20% on Monday. The plunge caused the former U.S. president's net worth to shrink by $1 billion. That's billion with a B. A massive, massive setback for the ex-president amid the backdrop of his mounting financial and legal woes. In fact, some experts say the stock was bound to fall. Our next report gets you the truth about Truth Social's true valuation.
Trump's media shares are tumbling. The Republican presidential candidate is losing money when he needs it most. On Monday, shares of Donald Trump's social media company fell by about 20%. This is less than a week after they began trading publicly. The plunge came after the Trump Media and Technology Group reported that it had lost nearly $60 million last year, while only bringing in about $4 million in revenue. The drop also caused the former U.S. president's net worth to shrink by about $1 billion. This is because he's the majority shareholder, owning 78.8 million shares. After Monday's drop, Trump's stake is now worth about $3.8 billion. Even though Trump media shares are up by nearly 200% so far this year, reports say the company's accountants have sounded the alarm. They have raised doubts over its ability to continue, which is Wall Street for we may not be able to stay in business. With the opening bell on the 26th of March, under the ticker symbol DJT, a part of Trump's business empire went public for the first time in almost 30 years. Trading started with a bang. The stock surged by about 56% at the open to $78. But the frenzy eased with the closing bell, with the trade ending at $57.99, up by a more modest 16% on opening day. Wall Street assigned Trump media an eye-popping valuation of $11 billion. However, many experts warned that this multi-billion-dollar price tag was untethered to reality and it defied logic. They say the stock was bound to tumble. The share price spike was likened to the pandemic-era meme stock mania, which is when share prices of companies soared even though basics of their businesses, such as revenue, were weak. Meme stocks are heavily influenced by momentum and the enthusiasm of masses of small shareholders, so they tend to be extremely volatile, prone to sudden and steep increases and declines.
This company, when it's coming out and you see the price that it came out public, I think it was up in the 70s or $69 it's trading right now. From a fundamental perspective, it makes no sense, right? Now, you know, that's as an investor. Now, as a speculator, right, which I speculate inside my hedge fund at times, you know, there's going to be a lot of movement and a lot of action in here. But when you're looking at it as an investment, you have to look at what these stocks really are. And when you're only making $3.4 million and you're spending $49 million, the valuation that it's coming out at is just ridiculous, right? It's kind of like almost a meme stock, right? A meme stock that, you know, GME, AMC back in, you know, in 2020, 21.
The problem for Trump media is that its main product, Truth Social, is shrinking. It's burning cash, piling up losses, and losing users. The company makes its money exclusively through advertising on Truth Social. In February, the platform's monthly active US users were down by around 51% year-over-year to 494,000. By comparison, X, formerly known as Twitter, has 75 million active monthly users in the US, and Facebook has 142 million. Even Meta's Threads has more than 10 times as many users as Truth Social. So, Truth Social is facing real challenges and is dwarfed by its rivals. Beyond valuation concerns, there are other risks involved in Trump media. The most important one is that the company's future is inseparable from that of one man, Donald Trump. He's the chairman, the top shareholder, and the most popular user. Trump launched the platform in early 2022 after he was banned from major sites including Twitter and Facebook, following the January 6th attack on the US Capitol building. While he's been reinstated on both, he's made Truth Social the base for his campaign. He uses it to reach out to supporters, blast critics, and launch a smear campaign against his political rivals. He also often takes pot shots at other perceived enemies, including prosecutors and judges involved in his criminal and civil cases. Donald Trump is facing felony prosecutions in multiple cases. So, will Trump media shares bounce back? Or will it be another one of Trump's bankruptcies? The truth about Truth Social will only be revealed in time.
And finally to Haiti, where outgoing Prime Minister Ariel Henry has announced new plans for the Caribbean nation. A transition council has been finalized and new election dates are likely to be announced. But on the streets, the mayhem continues as the gang leaders dismissed Prime Minister Henry's proposal, claiming that they were not consulted. Amid the vicious cycle of violence, our next report explores if peace in Haiti has any realistic chance.
The streets of the Caribbean nation of Haiti were filled with gunshots and violence. Armed gangs began a fresh assault on the National Palace. They were intercepted by Haiti's police forces. The gun battle dragged on for hours. The rattle of automatic rifles spread fear among civilians. They were forced to take cover and eventually flee downtown Port-au-Prince. So why did the gangs launch another attack on the National Palace? It's because of the outgoing Prime Minister, Ariel Henry. Prime Minister Henry is still in Puerto Rico. He has not yet returned to Haiti, and it doesn't look like he's in a hurry either. Prime Minister Henry wants to stay away from all the action, but he still wants to pull the strings. The outgoing leader has announced new plans for Haiti. A transitionary council has been approved by the regional body CARICOM, and new elections are around the corner. However, Prime Minister Henry did not disclose any of the names of the candidates, and this didn't sit well with the armed gangs. Gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, aka Barbecue, had urged the international community to consult the gangs or risk a war. CARICOM has now taken a decision without consulting any of the gang leaders, sparking the new wave of violence. Bodies continue to pile up on the streets of Port-au-Prince. Innocent civilians are caught in the crossfire, and there is no accountability from the gangs or the police forces. Meanwhile, evacuations out of Haiti continue. After the US and India, Mexico also carried out rescue operations.
We needed to deploy a special operation with a Navy ship that sailed to waters near Haiti and rescue 34 nationals who are coming back and will arrive at our coast in Progreso.
The Transitionary Council is expected to oversee elections in Haiti, but with the ongoing security crisis, it won't be an easy task. Gang leaders have already dismissed the Transitionary Council. They say that the fighting will continue until Haiti is run by Haitians. Meanwhile, thousands of civilians have been displaced from their homes. Who would have thought that Haiti, which was once a honeymoon destination, would turn into a bloody war zone?
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden. How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.